Hey, welcome back, guys, to another week of business law. And we are now going to be starting chapter 16, and this will cover contract law in two sections. So we're going to get right into chapter 16, property and its acquisition. Okay, so a very short chapter, but an important one as we look to define property, identify the classifications of property, state the different ways of acquiring property, and differentiate the various ways of holding ownership of that property. Okay, so chapter 16, the first section, is going to take us through the different types of property. Okay, so that definition that we're looking for, property, the rights and interests in tangible and intangible things. And we discussed a little bit in class about tangible and intangible things. Simply put, tangible property are those things that you can touch, that you can feel, that you can actually grab a hold of. Okay, I gave you some examples as far as cars, homes, computers, um, phones, clothes, those type of things that we can grab onto. Intangible property are those things that we cannot touch, but they belong to us. Okay, so brand goodwill, if that makes any sense. The right to collect money and the right to patents. Okay, those are all intangible things, but yet do have a sense of ownership because they are considered property. Okay. Property is also classified into two distinct groups. You have real property and personal property. Now, real property is anything like the rights and interest in land, buildings, and those things that are permanently affixed to those buildings. So if you have a sign that is attached to a building, or if you have what else attached to a building? If you have, the roof, if you have apartments that live above that, that would be real property. Personal property is anything that's not classified as real property. So that should be an easy distinction between those two. Okay. Real property not only does it include what I just mentioned about land and buildings and things attached to that building, it also includes things that are below the surface. So not only does it have what you can see, but it also includes the things that you can't see. It goes under the land as well. Real land extends to, believe it or not, to the center of the earth and within limits the airspace that is above the land. And we talked a little bit in class too that when you own property, you have the right to have it, you have the right to use it, you have the right to profit from it. You also have the right to destroy it if you so choose. So that's what makes this real property. Okay? The intangible property. This these include, but are not limited to, these five things that are right here. Okay, intellectual property, copyrights, trademarks, patents, and trade secrets. These type of intangible things is really the what pulls together the chapter about property. It's really, really easy to say, this is mine, and you can show somebody that tangible property that you own. But here's some intangible ones. And we went over this a little bit in the beginning of the year when we had our discussion about Two Live Crew and Pretty Woman, and we'll get into that as well. So the first one is an intellectual property, and this is basically something that someone creates and they have the right to produce and distribute that in the marketplace. The best example I can give you of an intellectual property would be, let's say, a team logo. Okay, the Marshman logo. Someone who created that would have the right to call that an intellectual property. The H design that Roger Schwely has for his softball and that we've incorporated into other sports, that would be also considered an intellectual property. It was their idea. No one else can claim it as their own. No one can steal it. Another good example would be, entertainment industry. Professional wrestling would be one when they come up with names. No one has ever heard of Terry Bollea, but when way back in the 80s, when the World Wrestling Federation created Hulk Hogan, everyone has heard of him. Well, Hulk Hogan is an intellectual property. The only person who has the rights to that is whoever would own that particular moniker. So once again, intellectual property is something created by somebody, and they have the right to use it as they so choose. Okay. Now, protecting people with that intellectual property are things like copyrights. Copyrights protect the expression of a creative work. We went over this when we had Two Live Crew versus Two Live Crew and Pretty Woman. Only owners can reproduce, sell, or perform or display their work and profit from it. And believe it or not, copyrights, anything that's after, any work that's been created after January 1st, 1978, you have the right to that copyright for life plus 70 years. So it basically spans an entire generation if you have definitely filed the protection of an expression of a creative work. The expression of that work must be a fixed and original, meaning that it must be expressed in permanent ways that others can understand. And I've included a link for you once this lecture is over for you to go back and take a look at as to what that means. Okay. Now, when you violate the copyright, it's called infringement. So this is when an unauthorized sale, display, or performance of copyright-protected work is used. When politicians use theme songs, okay, during their rallies, or as I found out a couple of years ago, you cannot have a movie night and show, particularly Disney movies, and you cannot show them for profit unless you have Disney's permission to do so. As a matter of fact, one school district actually had that this earlier in this year. Somebody from Disney found out about it. They filed a copyright infringement, and that particular school district had to pay back all the proceeds that they made from that particular movie night. So it's very, very important that you understand what copyrighted work you're using and how far you can use it. You can use it, as we discussed earlier this year, under the terms of fair use, as long as they meet the fair use qualifications, and I've listed them for you. If the work is educational, what's the nature of the completed work, the amount that you're using, and the the potential effect on the market for its use. So as long as you have those four things, you do have fair use. However, there are very, very strict guidelines that follow. Trademarks are similar to copyrights in that while copyrights have to do with created works, trademarks have to do with created symbols. Okay? You cannot trademark random words like because, or as I give here, hamburger. You can't do that, but McDonald's has the right to create a trademark of the Big Mac or filet of fish, or even more to the point, the golden arches or the golden M. Those things are very, very specific, and when you recognize them, or when you see them, you automatically recognize that it's from McDonald's. So trademarks are different from copyrights in that trademarks have to do with words or symbols, and copyrights have to do with creative work like books, songs, or other written things. Patents grant the exclusive right to make or use or sell or import or offer a novel new usefulness to product or process. Okay, this has a lot to do with sometimes in manufacturing, distribution, production. We go ahead and we define what new and non-obvious and useful are. Patents has a lot to do, I guess, with a lot of the working materials or how a product is used and made and again produced and distributed. Okay, so here are some 10 patents that launched billion-dollar empires. They were more than ideas. These were things that were actually put into practice, but they were the only ones, and I mean they, the company that developed them, were the only ones who were allowed to use them. More often than not, when a patent is developed and you have the right to be the only one who can produce and distribute and sell this item, a lot of times this item is licensed. So they will allow other companies to do it, but they will receive a little bit of actually a lot of the profits that are gained from that sale. Trade secrets. Trade secrets are a little bit different. These are the valuable information that an owner attempts to keep secret. Some well-known ones that the Kentucky Fried Chicken recipe, or the Coca-Cola formula, or the Google search algorithm. those are trade secrets that everyone tries to figure out and replicate. But, I guess that the formula for KFC and Coca-Cola were kept in separate vaults for so long. Only a very few people knew exactly what they were. So that would, because I guess you can't copyright or trademark or put intellectual property on those particular items that go into the recipe. However, how much of it that you use to produce that particular item, the KFC or the Coca-Cola recipe, that is what would be considered a trade secret. Okay. Here is your assignment for today that will not be due until the end of Tuesday. So this will cover 2 days worth. Give you guys a little bit of a break, okay, but still working diligently to complete the task. Okay. I'd like you to list 10 examples each of a patent, copyright, trademark, or a trade secret. Okay. There's an example chart on page 288 of your text to assist you, and post your answers using the prompt on Google Classroom. So a real simple, pretty basic assignment. However, you've got 40 things to find, 10 each of those patent, copyright, trademark, and trade secrets. So make sure that you do your due diligence and list them well. Again, use the example that I've given you. And if there's anything I can do for you guys, please let me know. I hope that this lecture finds you well, and I look forward to moving on to 16.2, which we will do on Wednesday. Have a great day, guys. Talk to you soon.